Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Show Live. I just realised in the title I've called it Monday Night Show. Andrew quickly edited that while we will get underway because I was late trying to set this up. So, hello everyone. I hope you've had a great day. It's been a busy day. Rumours aplenty, but little action. To discuss it all, we have Andrew, Calvin, and Kenny. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all?
Fantastic, thank you.
Brilliant as always.
Such enthusiasm. I love it.
Night. Honestly, Stevie, let you host for one night and you always. Anyway, I'm fine. I'm great, actually. I'm super duper.
Good. I am glad. So rumours aplenty today, and it all starts, I think, this morning with Gassama. Really, that was a Jedi Gassama, that on and off deal over the whole weekend. Russell Martin spoke on Friday, Kenny. I should know because he was speaking to us, but he said he was very hopeful of the player being here, and that was followed up over the weekend of rumours of. I don't know if we want to say the deal not being off, but being held up by Sheffield Wednesday. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. And then this morning, there was reporters for Sky Sports News saying the deal was finally going ahead and all set for an imminent announcement. That followed lots of accounts going, it's done, it's imminent. 8 o'clock on Monday evening, there's still no word from Rangers, and we don't seem to be any further forward. Frustrating because you want these players in the door, especially with the Panathinaikos game looming large. But what do you make of the developments over the weekend and since Friday?
Well, no development, you mean. We need wingers. We need attacking players. We have clearly been trying to get this guy to come in. And to be fair to Sheffield Wednesday, they're in chaos, aren't they? They're all over the shop. Their chairman's a bit of a nightmare by all accounts, and he has been hawking them about, I think, trying to see if he can get a better price, as Calvin had said to us just before we come on, which is absolutely right. Russell Martin said he was very confident it was going to happen. Now, that was 3 days ago. We're still sitting waiting, and you'll get to the point, guys, where Rangers will pull the plug on this, because we've got till Thursday, and if you're being 100% realistic about it, we need two wingers in before Thursday, before the deadline. And yeah, I understand we've got another week where you can turn around and change that, but being realistic about it, we have a situation where, to get Russell Martin to play the game of, the style of football that he wants, you need pace out wide. And even if you were to start with Oscar Cortez on one side, nobody wants to see us starting with Kieran Dowell on the right-hand side. Nobody wants to see that. So we need one winger, two wingers, perhaps three wingers. And this has dragged its heels to the point where, as I say, for me personally, the Rangers are going to end up pulling the plug on it. If it's not done tomorrow, I think they'll just pull it and go elsewhere, mate. And that's a shame for the boy. It's a shame for us because he looks a decent player, but more so for the kid himself, who's it's all done and dusted apart from this one guy who's, drove the Sheffield Wednesday into the ground, and by all accounts is an absolute maniac of a guy. So yeah, that's where we're at as far as I can see.
Calvin, it is frustrating because this morning we thought, right, okay, this one's going to be close. Source is decent, imminent. The word is getting used. Rangers set to announce it immediately, and we're still no further forward on, which is frustrating for everyone. But you just want to see this guy in because we need pace, and I've spoken about it a lot. But in order for this to succeed, these wide men do need to be found and found quite quickly. It's probably going to come too late for Panathinaikos, but you start to look beyond that. Start to look towards the start of the season, which is only a couple of weekends away as well. And there's not really any time for stuff like this to be delaying our progress.
No, not at this stage, because we're hitting it that week before the game. We want to get bodies in. And I think we all get excited because it was an Italian source, and it seems to be Italian clubs that have been floating about him as well. And it was from like Sky Sports, but an Italian reporter base. So hopefully it is closer than what we think, because it's something that we desperately need. That's Dill started right hand side both pre-season games so far for us, and we can't have it. Let's be honest. Russell Martin builds his teams around pace from the width. Dill is as well towing a Land Rover behind him. That's the kind of speed that you're going to get off him. Tidy enough player, but nowhere near the level we are needing, especially for Champions League qualifiers. He had his wee spell at Birmingham last year. We were all thinking great. That gives you a position for him to go out. He's made his name in that level. Hopefully somebody can pick him up, at least get him off the wage bill to an extent. We need width. And I think that's probably where the Adozie link and everything came last week. Obviously it was somebody that Martin knows, but it falls into that same position that Gassama is meant to come in. And maybe there is starting to get in that wee penny quabble into it where they think this isn't happening, and that's where these links are coming from.
So harsh, well, little, but yep, probably true. Andrew, it is frustrating, but do you know what? This is Sheffield Wednesday's prerogative. I suppose if they don't want to sell him, he is their player. We know what's going on down there, and it's quite a difficult situation for them. You obviously don't like seeing that. A weird one, because it's kind of dragged on now, maybe 4 days too long. If you think about manager speaking on Friday morning, more or less, to ourselves, and then saying, you know, that he's very hopeful that he'll be our player and stuff like that, and then we're back. But looking at it more as a whole, if you think about this time last week, the manager had spoken after the Bruges game and said we're going to see significant changes in the squad, players going out, and we're going to, you know, it'll look a lot different in time for Panathinaikos. A week later, and we've only really seen that one body come in this week, or last week rather. But that is could you sense maybe a wee bit of frustration when you think about Robin Proper, Ben Davies, Leon King, etc. being on the cusp of moves apparently, and then no moves actually happening? I can see the manager, maybe as much as we might kind of feed off him, I think he maybe thought there would have been more action by now as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just those players, but there's also the ongoing sagas with Igaman and Cyril Dessers as well. So, you know, we know that there's plenty of action in the transfer market that feels like it was meant to happen and then just hasn't. The Sheffield Wednesday situation is obviously unique to them, but the fact that that isn't the only hold-up shows that this is how the transfer market is, unfortunately. I'd love if it was Football Manager and we could just press a button and the players show up straight away, but unfortunately it's not the case. But it is a frustrating thing to, you know, get the news, oh, this is as good as done, basically, and it's just, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I think, as we saw with the takeover for the 49ers, just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, unfortunately, can take longer than you want it to.
Yeah, it definitely can, but as you said, we've been linked with plenty of wingers, and Calvin and I kind of spoke about it already. Are you in the same opinion that width and that kind of pace is a necessity? I wrote about it a wee bit for Rangers Review tonight. Are you in the kind of agreement that is urgently needed?
No, for sure. We've already, I think, added to the defence, we've added to the midfield, but we need strikers, we need wingers, especially if Martin wants to play that he wants to, you know, the style I think that we expect that he wants to go for. Because Kieran Dowell's not that. And you can't pin hopes on a kid on the left side either, or hoping that that players who have failed to impress over the past year suddenly come good. And the problem is I could be talking about a number of players for that as well. So we know that we need to have more bodies in there, and we know that we need some players to go out as well. For me, the bigger frustration is the lack of movement out the way from us. We still have so many of the players who were disappointing last season and have already been written off as not being good enough. And they are still here, unfortunately. We're going to come on to, obviously, a few that we might have a different opinion on, want to keep. But at the moment, the players who we definitely want to get rid of still show no signs of going.
Kenny, just before we move on to talk about kind of Robin Proper, who's more or less dominated the headlines the last couple of days, we have been linked with Jezarun Raksaki from, I believe he was on loan at Sheffield United last year. His stats, I'm just kind of looking at them as well. He played 35 games, 7 goals, 2 assists, 1,874 minutes played, 85% pass accuracy, 0.48 key passes per 90, 5.19 dribbles and 53% successful dribbles over the 90. Again, thank you to Kai Watson for that. You can follow Kai at Kai G Watson on X and stuff like that. With Kai's permission, I've brought those stats up. He's certainly a pacey player, Calvin, as well. You're going to know a wee bit about him, I'm sure. There was interest from Wolves, apparently prepared to spend £10 million. We believe that our interest in him is real. Again, if this is happening, then it certainly seems like the management have identified those positions as being key. But it is an interesting link. It's somebody that I would quite like. I think he's quite decent. If you could get him and get Gassama in, I think it changes the whole complexion of the team quite quickly. I'm with you. They maybe need another one, but I think that needs to happen, Kenny. It needs to. I'm not trying to be impatient, but there is a desire amongst myself to fix that quite quickly, because that is a worrying situation for me.
Well, the Panathinaikos game is next week. It's 8 days away, and I understand that the situation where you're building a team for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I understand that. However, the Panathinaikos game is worth a lot of money, and it is very frustrating, as Andrew kind of pointed to as well, that we the club, Kevin Thelwell, Russell Martin, everybody connected must have felt that there was players going to go out the door last week, or they wouldn't have said it. Russell Martin would not have said that. So that is a frustration for everybody, and if that's holding things up, then Rangers are going to have to kind of figure out what to do with that, because you're right, when it comes to this kid, I watched a fair bit of the Championship, and I'm not going to say I know huge amounts about him because I don't, but Sheffield United and Leeds were a cracking watch last season. Both of them were brilliant to watch. They were really good sides, and if he's fitting in and doing well at that club, who were incredibly unfortunate not to get promoted last year, then he'll be a decent player. Is he good enough to take the step up and go and play Champions League football? I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. However, again, it's the same situation that you've pointed to, that if you're Russell Martin, if you're going to employ Russell Martin, you have to give him the tools to do the job that he has been assigned to do, and that is really clear. That the pace, as you and Calvin have both said, all the pace that you have comes from those wingers. It comes from those flanks. Your fullbacks invert in, and that's where your pace and your width comes from. And that's a concern that we are sitting there with. And I know we're going to come to this, but that front three, if you like, is a major concern going into that game next week. Now, it is one of those, it's a dad's army thing, isn't it? Don't panic. But it is don't panic. Meanwhile, I'm about to panic because I want to get through that tie. I really do feel it's a kind of imperative for Rangers, for Russell Martin. I think if Russell Martin gets knocked out there, I'm not saying he's going to be under pressure, because that's just not the case. However, the fans are, what we're like, and they'll turn and say, "Oh, we should have get through that," and it puts everybody under a little bit of pressure, doesn't it? If you don't get through that tie, because then all of a sudden we've got 2 Europa League ties where we're not going to be seeded for the first one, and you could find yourself dropping into the Conference League qualifiers and all sorts, and it becomes a real runaway train situation. So what I would like to see more than anything else is, with this boy, if you're going to get the boy, take the punt on him just now. Don't worry about people going out. Go and get him. If you think he's achievable, go and get him just now for that game. get him here up for the season if that's what we're going to do, because I think you're doing Russell Martin a disservice or an injustice if you don't give him the tools to implement the style of play that he wants to.
Calvin, you would have seen a wee bit of Jesurun Raksaki. Is he the type of player that we should be getting in? Would it bother you so much if it was a loan again? But would you think that that kind of move, along with Gassama, would bring the kind of width and trickery that we're needing, or would you want another one? Where are you with that link and what could potentially happen out wide?
I think we want both them in pretty quickly because it offers you your left, it offers you for your right, and that's what I like about him. He is an out-and-out right-hand side winger, whereas Gassama can play both, but he does tend to push for the left side the majority of his time. And I think it's just something we've cried out for. When was the last time we had two proper wingers? Like, it's a long, long time ago. Like, I can't remember the last time we had two proper wingers. Even when Smith's last spell, it was strikers tend to push out wide. We had one winger, and even one was Greg Wild, who in the youth system was a left back. So, like, if you think about it back then, it's been a while since we've had two out-and-out wingers, and I think with the style that Martin plays, this is key. So, I'm with Kenny. I think we need to really dig in and get this done, especially going into this Panathinaikos tie. Like, we've got a feel-good factor at the club just now. Letting that slip this early could be a disaster. I'm not going to say disaster, but I just did. But there's plenty of things we need to do quite fast. Like, if we get the wingers in, we know we've got strikers in the building, but we don't have wingers in the building. We've got people that are shoehorned out to play there, and that's why it's key it's getting done. I think with this one, it probably will be a loan deal. Will it be a loan deal with an option to buy if we commit, if he plays a certain amount of games plus selling fee? Who knows? If there's other Premier League teams interested, that's where it can be an issue because he seems to be very highly rated down there. Like, he's one of the ones that quite a few teams are sniffing out for. He's pacey, he's direct. The experience will come. He'll get a better goals and assist ratio as he starts playing more often, more first team football. But I think it's somebody that I really like the look of. Direct, gets himself in the box, creates chances. I think we need it. We've not had it in a while, and I think these two lads can make a massive difference. But we can't wait forever, especially at this stage. We've only got a few days to get them in, realistically, for this Champions League qualifier.
Yep, we've got 2 days after this. I will say this, and this will probably sound absolutely ridiculous, and I can understand why it would. But if you got Gassama in, and you were able to get Raksaki in and natural width on each side, I would feel a hell of a lot better going into that Panathinaikos game. As much as these boys wouldn't have trained very much, they wouldn't be in Martin's style. I think for wingers, it's different. As long as you can get them to track back and then when they get commit and run at people, I think they would be able to slot in more than it would be for a midfielder, for example, playing in Martin's style. So that's my rationale, and I'm trying to grip on any kind of straws that I can moving into that. But let's move slightly away from that. Talk about Robin Proper. Robin Proper bid again accepted by Rangers on Friday. I think it finally came in. The chance, the reporting today seemed to be that Robin Proper was stalling or in negotiations for to settle his contract as such. So there needs to be, I think, a wee bit of clarity surrounding this, boys. And the thing is, Robin Proper doesn't want to leave Rangers. Rangers want Robin Proper to leave. So there's a difference between the two. If Robin Proper asked to move and asked to leave, then he's not entitled to get the difference of his contract and things like that, because he then wants to move, he wants to leave, he doesn't want to honour his contract. Right now he does want to honour his contract. Rangers want rid. Rangers have accepted a bid. So that means that he's entitled to the balance in between. And that's what we've seen report today. I think it's quite unfair, people saying he's a wage thief and he's money grabbing and stuff like that. He's got a contract which he's prepared to honour, Andrew, as much as we might not like it. We gave him that contract. He's entitled to that difference to be settled. So, for example, if he's on 12 grand a week here at Rangers and 20 are only going to pay him 10, then that £2,000 a week for the rest of his contract needs to get settled up. Now, if it's a couple of £100,000, then we're just going to have to bite the bullet, take that away from what we're getting paid, unless we want to ship him in the reserves, which makes no sense at all. You're then paying that full wage. You're not getting a fee. For me, if we want rid of him, then it's one of the downsides, and we negotiate that contract in the first place.
Yeah, he won't be asking for more than he's entitled to. at the end of the day. In fact, I'd be surprised if it's as much as that. He's just looking to compensate himself for the lost earnings. If Rangers don't do it, then they're just going to have to pay it out just over a longer time period instead. And also, we won't get any players in as a replacement, and we'll have an annoyed player in the building as well that we've got to deal with. So, for me, there's no argument to say, no, we'll just keep him on the books here. I think it's an absolutely open and shut. And not to get Oliver Cromwell on him, but in the name of God, go. We don't need him here. He's proved not fit for purpose playing for Rangers. We need to do what it takes to get him out the door. FC20 will be a decent home to him. I think it'll suit him more style of football-wise. It's just going to mean a cut to his pay, but very few players, I think, come to Rangers and then graduate into a higher price bracket unless they're exceptionally good.
Yeah, it's very little players that leave here that actually go on and do differently. Kenny, do you think he's got a point? It's annoying from a fan's perspective because you just want him to bugger off and you want players to start leaving as quickly as possible, and no disrespect to the boy, but he doesn't have a future here. Russell Martin's made that clear. He didn't make the journey down to the training camp, so it's pretty obvious what's going to go on. Do you have an issue with any of that side of it? Or is it just part of it and we need to suck it up, pay it and get on with it?
I don't have an issue with anybody wanting what he feels he's due. That is the simple fact of it. It's like anybody else in any walk of life. If you're being told that you're no longer required, then you'll get compensated for that if you have that contract. It doesn't matter what profession or what job you're doing. That's just the way life is. And I don't have an issue with the boy doing that whatsoever, because at the end of the day, if he's quite happy to sit and stay, all we were going to do if we turn around and do any of the things that were mentioned there, like stick him in the B team or whatever, you're just kicking the can down the road a year, and then you're getting less transfer fee, and you're still going to have to pay him a year down the line the compensation fee that he'll be due. Other than that, you have no option as a business, as an enterprise, but to turn around and say, right, well, I don't know if I heard this right. I don't know if I read this or whatever, but somebody said to me, I heard that it was £300,000 or something like that. I don't know if that's the case. I just somewhere, I may have seen it on Twitter or something like that. And if that's the case, then if we're getting 1.5, then we're getting 1.2 million, and he's getting the 300,000. And you do the deal, you get on with it, and it'll maybe allow us to bring someone else in, mate, because
you're also saving 2 years worth of wages.
Exactly. It's just one of those things, Stevie, that it's a no-brainer for the boy himself, and Rangers and Rangers fans, and I know I've seen a lot of the nonsense on Twitter today with people raging at him. Well, put yourself in that man's shoes, and you're doing exactly the same. It's as simple as that. Nobody in their right mind would do otherwise, Stevie. Honestly.
Calvin, it's frustrating for us, but do you have an issue at all with it?
Same, like if you were working in a job and you were offered a certain amount of money and then all of a sudden they want you to leave to go somewhere for less, you're wanting the money. Like, it's hard as if you look at it as a football fan, you're not happy about it, but if you look at it as a human being, that's the way the world works. You want your compensation for what you're due, essentially, and that's where it's at. Like, we gave him the contract, it's not worked out. It probably says a lot about how we were running in the past, these bigger deals for players that are a bit untested, but they gambled on it and it's just not worked. Unfortunately, we need to take the transfer fee and save ourselves the wage in the long run. We're going to lose out in less by getting rid of him and taking the hit than we will if he just sits in the reserves for nothing.
Yeah, totally right. And Calvin, John Suter's been linked with a move away to Trabzonspor. That's been in the headlines the last couple of days. Rumours of a fee of €1.5 million. Where are you placed with that? I've talked a lot about that this morning on the review and things as well. What do you make of the news today?
I'm quite in a similar camp as what you were talking about, mate. It's like, to replace him for a homegrown status, we'd probably need to fork out a lot more. Even if it was just a loan for another player, you'd probably find out between wages and the fee for it. at least we know what we get with John Souttar. Yes, he's had his injury he's in the past, but it's not calf related, it's not Achilles related anymore. It's just part and parcel being a defender that puts his body in the line. Knee knocks, ankle knocks, these things happen. He's steady enough. He's played enough games last year. The injuries didn't come out for too long. We know what we get. But the problem is he going to be unhappy if he's not a guaranteed starter, which we're unsure if he's going to be. But I think he's a type of player I like to have in the building because we've heard some stories in the past of what he's like in the training ground, the dressing room. I like him. I think he's a steady player. Yes, he's made mistakes, but I think with the defence that was surrounding him, the inconsistency in the defence last year, that definitely played a part in it. And I think he's, for 1.5 million, it's not worth letting him go, in my opinion. Because, as I said, you're going to spend a lot more to replace him.
Kenny, spoke a lot about that again today. Do you disagree with Calvin, or you got anything to add on the John Souttar situation?
No, not much to add to it. However, what I would say is that he's got a year left. €1.5 million isn't enough for me, because I think he'll surprise folk. I think two things about that. I think he'll get a lot more game time than people imagine, and I also happen to think that Russell Martin will rotate quite a lot, and he'll get plenty of game time. And I think the way he plays, I think the way Russell Martin plays, I think that rotation is key. I do. I think that's going to be quite evident as the season kind of unfolds, that we'll see quite a lot of changes from game to game a lot of the time. And I heard you talking about your the coefficient or whatever it is that they call it these days, where you need to have X amount of Scots in your squad, and that is absolutely key. And with a year left, absolutely not. It would need, personally for me, it would need to be an offer something in the region of £3.5 million for me to even consider it, because I think you're talking £2.5-3 million to replace him. So with a Scot, that's what I'm saying. I think, you know, a Scottish centre half tipping about the Scottish national team. No way would I take the 1.5. No chance, actually.
Andrew?
Hey, we've still got Ben Davies here. What do we need Souttar for? Listen, I think the issue that I've got is that if we turn down the transfer bid and say, no, John, we want to keep you here, I think he'd be quite entitled to say, well, where's my new contract then? Because by all accounts, he's not on a great deal of money. I don't think he's one of the high earners at the club. And at 28, he probably thinks, okay, well, if I'm staying here for Rangers, do I get a new contract? Do I get something that's going to see me over the next couple of years? Or is it going to be in January, if I find myself out of the plans, I'm looking for a new club and I've missed out on this move? Now, it is going to a Turkish club, so there's no guarantee that he'll see any money while he's playing out there anyway. But it's still a difficult thing to ask a young man to turn down a chunk of money to make the move. So I think if we do keep him, then I think we should be doing it as part of renewing his contract. And if we aren't planning on doing that, then I'm a little bit more inclined to bite the bullet and get the money for him, because we're not going to see that kind of money for him again in the future. You know, I don't think anyone's going to offer 1.5 million euros for him, because if he stays for a year and we don't give him a new contract, then he walks away for free. If we do offer him a contract, does he have that great a season this year to warrant a bigger bid? I certainly hope so, but I don't know for sure. So on balance, I'd be inclined to take the money if he isn't going to be in our plans beyond this year.
Well, it was a report from Turkey, so I suppose we'll just need to wait. Apparently, Ridvan was leaving and has been for the last, since the moment he arrived. Speaking a few questions regarding Ridvan. Ridvan done light training by himself on Friday and had a knock, unsurprisingly. So he was doing training by himself, as was McCausland, as was Fraser, and Dessers and Eagleman, who both they done light training, a lot of running, and then when everybody left main training, they went on and done some work with the ball and stuff like that. So they are all back in training as such. As we said, Panathinaikos is fast upon us. There is a couple of bounce games this week, I believe. this is unconfirmed. The club don't discuss stuff like this, but I believe we're playing Dunfermline tomorrow afternoon. I believe that's true, and then we're playing Hamilton towards the end of the week. That's unconfirmed, but that's how I think it is going. We'll just need to wait and see if we get any news of that. Sometimes the clubs don't report from them, that's for sure. But you did went in agreement with Barnsley that we did get a wee bit of coverage of it, which we've seen. I don't know, folks. It's difficult because you're wanting that news, aren't you? You're wanting things to happen quicker. We need to remember that you've still got to the end of August, first day of September before that window does close. Calvin, just as we kind of round up the show and go from where we are, what would you like to see happen this week, and where would you like, if you're coming towards the end of the week into that Panathinaikos game, what needs to happen for Rangers to be in good shape for that?
Looking for 2 wingers to be in, just so obviously it blends in with what Martin's natural style is. It's something that we desperately need. I don't want to see Dow being the one that's starting right side in both these bounce games. He can go down to Hartlepool next week, in my opinion. And I'd like to see consistency in the bounce games. If they release the lineups, I'd like to see our best 11 play. I think that's something that's been missed. It's been very mix and match. I think it'd be good to get what Martin sees his best 11 right now on the park together before Panathinaikos. And hopefully we can see somebody like Proper, Davies, etc., who seem to be so far out the system now, like let go, or at least somebody else takes them on. Like, it needs to be done now. We need to start ins and outs, need to start matching in. But hopefully the big thing is get 2 wingers in for me.
Andrew, do you, when you look at your week ahead in Rangers land, what do you want to see?
I want to see probably another 3 or 4 players in, and I want to see more than that go away. It's kind of where I'm at. The number of players that we have still in the building who are not going to be, who don't have a future, not the ones that are up for debate, the ones that just definitively do not have a future at Rangers, not the ones who didn't travel down to St George's. It shouldn't be here. They're occupying wages. So I would love to see some movement out the way. I think, as Calvin's right as well, getting wingers in has to be the priority, because at the moment, until we get proper confirmed bids in, Dessers and Igaman aren't going anywhere. And they have been taking part in training, albeit the light stuff, because they're both coming back from knocks or visa issues or what have you. So striker-wise, we're fine. The wingers are where we need to see movement. A lot of love for Oscar Cortez and Ravi Matondo, but they still remain deeply unproven. So, yeah, we need options there, for sure. That's the priority.
Kenny, I'm going to change it slightly up for you, but if we were to face Panathinaikos tomorrow in this current state of mind, how would you feel about that game, and do you think we would be ready for it?
I'd be very apprehensive, and no, I don't think we're ready for it. I don't think we're ready for it at all, in truth. I mean, listen, if you're really honest, you could turn and say it's not out with the realms of possibility here that you're going to see Jack Butland, James Tavernier, Red Van, Oscar Cortez, Cyril Dessers, Kieran Dowell, all in that team. I'm not saying they are, but it's not out with the realms of possibility that they're all going to be in that squad. And that is very much like the team that failed drastically last season. And that's kind of where I feel we have a problem with this, where, this was a rebuild, and, we're all expected to be patient. We're not patient. We've never been patient. We're not patient people. And that's the issue that I have, if I'm being honest, Stevie, that I don't think we're anywhere near ready, even going by the footage of the game the other day. And, you and I were up at the Bruges game, and we're not ready for a team of that quality. And I'm not saying they're going to be outstanding. I don't think they're any better than, in fact, I don't think they're as good as Bruges. However, when you see that the way we are, where you're trying to implement this style of play. You've got a new manager, new style of play, some new players. I expected more new players to be in for this particular game. So I don't think we're necessarily anywhere near ready for this game. The only thing you could say in our favour is that nobody's really ready for these games, are they? It's the end of July. I mean, if you think about it, Chelsea won that tournament last night. That's the end of the season. That's officially the end of the season yesterday, and we're starting next week. It's bonkers. And the first round of qualifiers have already started while this season's going on. So I don't know, Stevie. My concern, as I say, is that there's certain players, and I'm in danger of repeating myself here, but there's certain players that you kind of just know are going to start next week that none of us really wanted or expected to see again, and that's what's making me apprehensive.
Well, we're going to find out, folks, that's for sure. We hope to have news from the club soon. Looking for confirmation of the Jedi Gassama deal as quickly as possible. I think that would give everybody a lift. Certainly ahead of Panathinaikos, if we could get another one in, then yeah. And I think we do go with, Wood City will be back and ready for that. Is Danilo okay? You've got Asgard there, who's really did impress me in training, who I think has got an eye for goal, I think can finish, and I think he's going to be one that we'll all like. Rothwell's got enough about him, JJ and Suter. Could we have enough at the back? Red Van, who's going to play at left back, we'll need to see. That's up to Russell Martin. But what I do want Russell Martin to start well, because I do not want another case of the support being, dreading it and negative, and we're down the dumps before things have properly even started. We get to the end of July and everybody's down the dumps. So we really need positivity. We need us to find a way past Panathinaikos. We done well against Olympiacos last year in Greece. I don't think Panathinaikos are the world beaters that we perhaps make out in our head, but they're certainly a good outfit. But Rangers, if they can get their act together over the next couple of days, get some players in, I think we're going to be ready for that. But we'll just need to wait and see. There's a lot unfolding. As we said, Gassama, getting him in the door. Could we get anybody in the next couple of days that could supplement him and help him and get ready? We can make 2 changes up until the night before that Champions League squad. You would like them to be in. So hopefully we can. And hopefully we can get moving. But let's see what the days bring. We'll be back on Wednesday. Kenny and I, we've got our show, and then we'll be live on Friday night as per usual. If there's breaking news with signings, I'm sure me and Andrew will pop up somewhere at some point to welcome them. But Calvin, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Thoroughly appreciate it, my friend.
Not a problem at all. Glad to be a part of it, and hopefully the next time we speak, we've got some happy news to discuss.
That's it, Kenny. We're trying not to be frustrated, but there's a patience we're trying to exhume, but there's also very quickly an impatience. But I really am grateful for you joining us, mate. Thank you.
No, not at all. Listen, we've seen it at half time in the Bruges game, which is mental. It's pre-season. It's the first game of pre-season. It's the boys' first game at Ibrox, and there was a fair chunk of that crowd booed them off at half time. Patience is thin on the ground at Ibrox these days, and there's a reason for it, and we all know what it is. It's years and years and years of domestic failure, mate, that we have to address and get that changed. However, I'm just glad I've managed to get through this 40 minutes with my wee scalped head, which got very sunburnt yesterday, and I'm feeling it sitting here.
Almost the colour of Andrew's t-shirt. Andrew, thanks for joining us, my friend. Much appreciated.
It happens by accident on this pod, pal. Always a pleasure, genuinely, and hope there's good news to discuss in the future. But we're doing a lot better than we were last week. I'll say that. We've seen signings actually materialise, come into the park, and so a lot can change in a week. And here's hoping the Rangers pull their fingers out and make sure that happens by Friday.
Yep, that's absolutely it, folks. Russell Martin said last week there would be significant change and there would be changes aplenty before Panathinaikos. I think even he might have expected a wee bit more, so we'll just need to wait and see what happens in the next couple of days, as we said at the top of the show. Before we go, thank you to John Turner tonight, one of our members that gifted 5 Rangers 4 Lads memberships out for YouTube. Membership now for YouTube sits at 500 strong, which we really, really appreciate everyone's support. And yeah, thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. If you missed it, please check out the Sunday show, which returned last night. Scott and Dougie and Cheryl are the regular team. I popped on in place of Cheryl, who's out on holiday for a week or so in Spain, so she joined in the audience watching us, but it was great to have the boys back. They'll be back semi-regularly. I think it's every fortnight the boys are coming back as they build the show back up once more. There's also on the site interviews with Russell Martin, Telo Asgard, Manny Fernandez, and young Lyle Cameron as well. So there's plenty to do on the website if you want to go and check all that out. Tomorrow at 12 noon, there is the next instalment of Russell Martin's interview, which is 10 minutes or so you can catch that and have a look at that. That'll be available tomorrow at noon. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe on YouTube. It's free. It really, really helps us and helps us grow. If you want to support the show, you can get a membership for YouTube for extra shows and members-only videos, discussion corners, etc. We do that from 99p a month, and you're helping us directly. So thank you to everybody that does that. Thank you to everyone that's joined in. Have a brilliant Monday evening. Have a great week, and we'll speak to you as soon as there's breaking news. And if not, we'll be back Wednesday. Take care, everyone.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.